Welcome to another episode of The Draft Room. This is Tom.
And I'm Eli. Today we are having some fresh tap.
Yes.
Some fresh tap.
Yes.
So
It's early in the morning.
It is, yes. We're shooting in the morning today. I know previously you all are used to seeing a bourbon or beer selection. Today we're having some room temperature tap water.
Right.
All that to say, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, of course, we're going to talk about great creative events that are happening here in Huntsville. We're going to talk about some projects that our studios are involved with. But I'm really excited to have my good friend Anna Husband come on. She's a tattoo artist with the Gilded Moth Tattoo shop over at Lincoln Mill. So very excited to have a conversation with her about everything tattoos. So very excited about that.
Yeah, pretty pumped about that. So to get us started on studio work that we've had going on, Leary wanted to bring to attention some of the projects that we worked on throughout the year on these last two episodes. So today I wanted to talk about Loring and Company.
Okay.
If you're from Huntsville, you may be familiar with those guys. It's a jeweler off of Airport. Had the pleasure of working with them throughout a lot of the year. Gave the studio the opportunity to work with, for the first time, a Rolex certified dealer.
Okay.
Which meant that we had to work with a Rolex certified dealer website developer.
Okay.
Which is super interesting. So
Right.
there's only a handful of those in the nation that Rolex basically approves and says, yeah, you guys can make our websites.
All right.
Which is super interesting all on its own. And so that delivered us to this kind of special set of criteria, things we were allowed to do, were not allowed to do. So initially we got hired on just to do like a small rebrand for their typography and to kind of build some consistency through what logos were like showing up on billboards and business cards.
Okay.
Because that was getting a little bit disjointed.
Yeah.
So we came on for that. And then Barton Glass, who we'll talk about in just a minute, shot a video for Loring as like a sort of a store walkthrough. And in our conversation, we were going to integrate that into the website. With our conversation with this Rolex, I guess, representative, they were like, oh, you guys can't do that. And we're like, well, we can't do what? And they were like, you can't do a store walkthrough. Well, what do you mean we can't do a store walkthrough? And they're like, well, you saw Rolex there. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, you can't do that.
The thing we're promoting.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. And they were like, well,
Yeah.
we're sending in, we have to send in our guys to do that. Like you guys have to cut that out. It's like, okay, interesting.
Wow.
So we make this adjustment, right? It's like, all right, we'll
Yeah.
cut that out of the kind of the walkthrough, try to make the sequence feel cohesive again. Get back to us, and they're like, well, we said there's some green in there. And so if you go into Loring, you'll
Like
see
the
this
color?
Yeah, yes, exactly, like the Rolex green, right? And so I learned a lot about kind of the strictness of the sort of behemoth that is Rolex.
Yeah.
They have these really, really strict guidelines, and in a sense, I felt frustrated while working on the project.
Sure.
In a whole other sense, though, I thought, oh, wow, maybe this is what it takes to be
These guys lock
the
it
winner.
down.
Yeah. Anyway, so what's
So-
Bold working on?
Yeah, so the big thing that I want to highlight this political season is the fact that we got hired by Tommy Battle campaign to help them expand upon the Battle Works branding. So we did a lot of work on that side of it,
Yep.
some of the web work, some of the campaign work. But one thing I want to highlight is a thank you video that we put together. It's kind of a mashup between illustration and video work, and then Tommy speaking directly into the camera. And it was just a wonderful 2-minute video or so where he talks about the projects that he have accomplished and things that he wants to do in the future. So we thought it came together really well. So I'm really proud of that. You can see some of that work on tommybattle.com, and also, of course, see our case studies, theboldagency.co/r-work. Yeah, so I'm real excited about that.
Yeah, very cool. That's some really beautiful work.
Yeah, some events going on. One thing I want to highlight is I'm real excited about this, and it kind of ties into our guest today. But there is a shop up on Montesano called the Little Green Store.
Okay.
It's a beautiful little shop. It has all kinds of things you can get for presents, but mostly it has this beautiful gallery there of local, regional artists. They get to feature their art there. Every first Thursday of the month, they have a gallery tour where they have a featured artist, and an artist puts up all their work against the back wall and showcases it, does an artist talk, and then it's like a mixer. And you kind of go up there, you can see all the great stuff they have up there, but mostly get to see really good local regional art and support it, buy their stuff. They have everything from original art to prints, and it ranges from really expensive, beautiful, original art to affordable, gifts for friends and family or yourself. So I really want to help promote the littlegreenstore.net, and they have their events there. You can see the next upcoming artists, but you should always check out that place, and it's a great place to kind of meet people and see new art that's coming out.
Very cool.
Yeah, so this part of the episode is brought to you by the American Advertising Federation. I am the chair for the student outreach, and I am constantly going out there and promoting this organization to anybody that's in the design and communications industry. Great for networking. We put on really good events that kind of showcase the latest things that are happening in the industry. So please support AAFNA. And come to some of these events. They're a wonderful sponsor, and I love being a part of the organization.
Yeah, they're really kind of bringing some unity to what it means to be an advertiser and designer in
Absolutely,
PR
yeah.
for the folks here.
Yeah.
Also, if you like what you see and hear.
And who doesn't?
And who couldn't.
Who couldn't?
You literally couldn't not like that. It's brought to you by Bard and Glass, our other sponsor for the episode.
Yes.
All the visuals are done by them in Huntsville. They're local to the Huntsville area.
Right here
in town.
Yeah.
So just want to give them a shout out before we get into our guest.
Yeah. I'm excited. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Here we go. All right. Welcome back to the show. Anna Husband is here with us from the Gilded Moth Tattoo Shop. Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you for making time in your schedule to do this. I know you're a very busy woman.
Yeah, I had to pencil it in.
All right, let's talk about tattoos. Let's talk about designing tattoos. Let's talk about how you do that here in Huntsville. So why don't you give everybody a little bit about your background and how you got into tattooing and how you made it to owning your own shop called the Gilded Moth here in Huntsville.
So I've been tattooing 6 years. Started 7 years ago because you have a year-long apprenticeship. Got into that, and right around 6-year mark, you're a little bit more established in your career, and I felt like it was time for me to push myself a little more and open up a shop. So that's kind of how I got there.
Right. So you started over at Arcadia, which is in Campus 805, which is the old Stone. Was it Stone Middle School?
Stone Middle School, and it was Butler High too.
Oh, that's right. And it was converted over into retail shops, got breweries there now. But y'all took a really had 2 different studios there at some point, right? Like you started, and then you moved up to the larger one. So you were there, did a ton of work there. You got a huge following developed there, me being one of those clients, right?
Yep.
And then kind of established yourself at another kind of staple here in Huntsville, the Lincoln Mill. But you have a really unique shop over there. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's about 1,200 square foot, the space. I think a lot of people are used to going into a tattoo shop, stereotypically, I would say, not every tattoo shop, is, dark, loud, intimidating for some people, and especially people who aren't well-versed in the tattoo industry, right? So I wanted to create a space that was welcoming, open, kind of airy. I mean, you both have been in there. Just something that's a little bit lighter to the palate than, getting right in your face with some intense stuff, being at you with music or whatever. And so I've wanted to create that space, created it, and it's been the best decision I ever made. I mean, and I love the community over at Lincoln Mill. They're wonderful. It's nice. It is. It's a nice crew over there.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about sort of that. Well, we get into other shows, but we talk about that user experience, right?
Yeah.
So there's been this up until maybe recently, and you can give a better grip on that, but there's this kind of sense that tattoo shops are very cliquey. They're very judgmental. They can be like you said, intimidating. And the vibe I got over at Arcadia was not that, right?
Yeah.
There was a sense there.
No, she's done a really good job.
so
Creating that
we're
space.
talking about Leah Farah over there. She did a wonderful job of kind of creating this environment. There's a lot of women tattooers, and that could lend to some of that. But getting away from that stereotypical, intimidating sort of feel when you come to a studio. I think you've taken that and run with it with Gilded Moth. But talk a little bit about that difference between that traditional sort of almost like the biker sort of mentality and then coming into what you do is more of a curated feel, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say historically with tattooing, if you look back in the history of all of it, that, bikers and riffraff or people who were getting tattoos in kitchens and were like obviously a little bit more not normal lifestyle, right? And then it's shifted to this more luxury item because I think people realize it's an art form. People want to have things on their body that mean something to them or is unique. And I think that market has shifted from the bikers to the 40-year-old
The house
female.
moms.
Yeah, right. Like literally a mom or a teacher who just wants to have this tattoo. And I mean, I've been in a tattoo shop when I had no tattoos when I was younger, and it was intimidating, right? Like I'm just this 17-year-old little girl who had no tattoos, and it's like, oh, this is intense. And so because the demographic of people wanting tattoos has shifted from not just bikers, but predominantly women actually at this point. I think it's like 60% men, 40% women, where I think it was like 90-10. I'd say in the 90s that it was very rare, like, or 80s for a woman to have a tattoo. Sure. And if it was something small. And now it's becoming more of an acceptable thing. And I think that demographic needs a space. And I think that's what Leah did a good job over there, fitting that here in town. And then I just wanted to create my own space, expand upon, that market.
Yeah, I think there's a general sense that, tattoos are becoming less taboo and they're becoming more acceptable. You still can get a regular job if you have tattoos and on and on and on. So I think it helps with that side of it. So, and I think it's a welcoming experience where it's not feeling like, you have to, you're getting, heavy metal blasted at you and it's dark and it's, only a certain type of tattoos you can get there. Now it's more open and it's more of a sort of a welcoming environment, right?
Which is fine. I mean, I've been to those shops. I've been tattooed at those shops. I don't mind it, but I'm also tattooed.
Right.
But I think having a welcoming space in general, like I have no issue tattooing bikers. I would love for them to come in and give them tattoos, right? It's just I wanted to have, like, it's an even playing field for somebody walking in and it's just a nice space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Versus, like, making it uncomfortable for any person, right? It's just kind of crafting a space for everybody.
Yeah, you don't have to dart down a dark alley to get to a good tattoo shop now.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your particular style. Usually, tattoo artists kind of develop, go down a path, and they kind of develop their own style. What would you say your style is, and what do you mostly feel like your wheelhouse is when doing tattoos?
I'd say a neo-traditional because and you can get in all the technical stuff, which if you want to hear. Traditional tattooing, you use a single line weight, so it's consistency in the line weight, and then if you add on to that, then you start delving out of traditional. So that's where neo-traditional comes from, is that you use several line weights and your color palette's expanded because traditional tattoos, you have to stay within red, yellow, blue, green, and like a brown, and you can't go past that. At that point, you're not traditional anymore.
Gotcha.
If you're going to follow those rules. So I do neo-traditional because I use a larger color palette. I tend to do 2 line weights in my tattoos. But it's interesting. I don't want to be pinned to a certain style forever. Right. So I love playing around with it. I just find more joy in doing things with line work and color. I like black and gray. I'm fine with black and gray. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I do it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So when you get a new client, right? I think your studio right now is by appointment only, so you're not getting walk-ins. So when you get a new client, what is your process? How do you start developing what this person wants? Obviously, you're talking to them and they're kind of giving you an idea, but what is your normal process of kind of getting to the final point where you're showing them, what you've created and getting ready to tattoo on them? So how do you go through that?
So at least for me in my shop, I let myself or the artist do whatever process they want, right? Like if you want to do email or a form or whatever, but for me, when my book's open, you email me, you kind of tell me like, hey, I'll use a fake, like a name situation here. Sure. Like my name's Jane Doe, and I want
She's dead.
Yeah, right. I want a 6-inch floral piece on my forearm to represent my mom and my sisters, and I want it to be in color. And so she'll write all that down, or there's a form she can fill out.
Right.
I have her come in. I set it like a consult. You come in for a consult. We sit just like this. We chat about, hey, I saw these are things you wanted. Can you show me examples of things you like? Like, what are you looking at placement? Like, this way on your forearm or this way on your forearm. We kind of talk through every possibility that could happen for the tattoo, right? Like my goal is to get inside your brain, and what you're envisioning, I make it better. Because most of the time, that's what they usually say. It's funny. They leave, we have a consult, I make an appointment, they come back for their appointment, they see their design the day of, because I draw everything custom. And they usually go, that's exactly what I was thinking, but like somehow better.
Right.
And because my goal is to make sure that I'm still creating art, right? But it's an art that you wanted. So it's like a commission.
Yeah.
But it's like you want my style. You know, it's like this weird melding of art, but something that meaningful to someone. So you're like, yeah, it's interesting. But that's how the process works. And then you get tattooed.
So when you are starting to put together, so they've decided, here's what I want. Are you diving into research? Are you looking at, I mean,
Yeah.
so give me some of the background on that side of like your particular process for coming up with the design and style that you're going to put on them.
I'd say, so like in that scenario, right? If she
Yeah.
said, I want these florals, and it's like a daffodil, a poppy, a sunflower. Okay, I'm like, cool. I'm going to go through the internet, research that flower, find positionings of the flower that I think would work well, right? Like I think the sunflower should be tilted this way, facing up this way, and then the poppy's this way. So it like fits the anatomy of her forearm well, right? Like I don't want it to shoot off this way and then shoot off this way, so it's like around a curve and it looks odd. So I'm thinking about her body and that forearm, and then I take the floral that I study and then I draw it. I mean, it's literally just studying on the internet.
Do you know way more about flowers than you ever thought you would
my
at this
God.
point?
I know most people's birth flowers. If you tell me a month, I know most people's
birth flower?
There's birth flowers. Like a flower that represents the birth month.
God, is,
Yeah, I have my sister's
I think
birth
I know
flowers.
what mine is.
Yeah.
I don't know
because of
why
that, I got
know.
tattooed. Yeah, my
Yeah.
sister's birth flowers are lilies.
Yep.
But I don't even know what
What's
my birth
January?
flower
Is it a carnation? Why do I think that?
I don't know. I
It's
should know.
boring as shit.
I
Like,
think it might be like a snowdrop. There's a snowdrop, I think.
oh, really?
Yeah. Mine's a poppy.
What
Oh,
month are you
that's
born
nice.
August.
in? Okay, do you know what September is?
No.
Okay.
Here I am just.
We could get this in post. We could like then
I
make
know
you look like a genius.
marigolds are October. I know
Okay.
violets are February.
Okay.
Apparently nobody's born in September.
I didn't even realize people got their birth flowers put on them.
Oh, I mean, these are Scarlett's birth flowers. My daughter's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing.
All right.
But I mean, obviously, I do a lot of floral though. I will say, my bread and butter.
Yeah.
I say to people all the time, like, I could do flowers in my sleep. I like flowers.
I love flowers.
But I mean, obviously, I do more than that. But yeah, when I get more intense with research when it's things that people bring to me that like I have no idea about, right? Like I had. I mean, I've obviously seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but this girl wanted a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy tattoo. So, like, I'll watch the movie or
Wow, yeah.
I'll like, pull clips
Right.
from things off the internet to,
Yeah.
like, build this piece.
All right. Name a body part you won't tattoo. Is there a body part you won't tattoo?
For enough money, I would tattoo most body parts.
It's budget dependent.
So there's
I have-
nothing. There's no place like. Do you not second guess somebody who wants to get something tattooed on their forehead or something?
I do say if no one has, okay, if you came to me with no tattoos.
Right, and then
And
straight
you're
up,
like,
you
I
want
want
a
one on my forehead. I'd be like,
Sure.
these are some bad life choices. But
Right,
I'm also
yeah.
like, I don't get to govern your body. Shocker. But
Okay.
so I can't really like. I can give you my advice.
Right,
And I probably would be like, pass.
Right.
But
right. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like money.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've heard that other artists have like thresholds where it's like, oh, well, if you don't have any, what do they call them? And which maybe this doesn't mean the same thing anymore.
stoppers?
If you don't have any
Yeah.
job stoppers
stoppers,
already,
yeah.
like I'm not going to be your first.
I'm not
job
ruining your career,
Yeah.
but if someone else already did, I'm
in.
game for it.
I'm
yeah.
so in.
I've only done
Okay.
it one time with a girl. She was 18 or 19, and she wanted a snake on her arm, right, her forearm, but she wanted it to go down to her hand. She had like no other tattoos,
Okay.
and she was like 19 years old.
Big decision.
And I said, "What do you want to do? Like, like you in school? Like, what's going on? Let's chat about this." She's like, "Well, I'm in school to be a chemist," and I was like, "I guarantee you
Right.
that if you are even more qualified than the girl next to you who doesn't have the snake hand tattoo, they're gonna hire her in the lab over you."
Right.
I mean, I don't like that. That's how it's.
Yeah, you're not
is-
making reality.
Yeah, I don't
you're
like
stating
that.
reality.
Yeah.
And maybe I was wrong. Maybe she would have got hired, but I was like, you're rolling a dice there.
Well, so did she commit to it?
Oh no, I made her. Well, I didn't make her.
No, she did her forehead, and then we're
she has
Just
a
went
Mike
right up
Tyson
the
tattoo.
neck. Just
No, I have moved it up a little bit. I said, listen, you can have it to
Look at
here.
you.
yeah,
Like,
just let it poke out. a
Her
little bit.
mother would have loved you, I
I
think.
know.
That's
Moms
awesome.
like me.
Oh yeah. So let me ask another question. In your opinion, maybe not personal opinion, but what you've heard, what's the most painful place to get tattooed?
I get this question all the time. Our Wi-Fi password at the shop is, does it hurt?
Does
It's
it
always
hurt?
about the pain, right?
The answer is yes.
They all hurt. I always tell people it's your soft underbelly, right? It's your like stomach, inner thigh, underarm, and then because that's tender skin, right?
Sure.
Like you think about yourself as a mammal,
Sure.
like an animal, right? Like that's
Where don't you want to get pinched?
yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
that's not the great area. And then it's not where you're bony. It's actually not like about fat. It doesn't matter. People always say that all the time
Okay.
about their bones and fat.
Right.
It's where your nerves meet, like
Yeah.
joints or fat, like
Yeah.
not fat, but underbellies.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a rough spot.
I think it can be different for. I hate getting my back tattooed, but I know other people fall asleep when they get their back tattooed.
I've heard
so
back
crazy.
is terrible.
Yeah, it sucks. but-
Yeah.
And most people think it's not, but I'm like, think about it's your ribs. With your like, think about your skeleton, right?
Yeah.
Like it's your ribs that
Yeah.
you're tattooing. It's just your back,
Right.
Because you don't have, I don't know, all the nerves that run through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one small piece on the back of like my shoulder, right
Yeah.
at the top of my like arm,
Yeah.
right, and it's like among the most painful.
Yeah.
Just in that like
Yeah.
ditch of the arm area, like up here.
They
Right.
bleed the most too. Any part where joints meet, you
Oh,
bleed more.
interesting.
Really?
Mhm.
Wait, you mean you literally bleed more, not
Yeah,
not ink
li-
bleed.
No. Like actual blood.
Blood.
Like you notice.
Okay.
Like if I tattoo a shoulder
Yeah.
blade, I'll be like, oh yeah, there's more. They are dripping more blood. Like there's not blood splattering everywhere with a tattoo, obviously.
What?
But, like,
You've
no,
been
I
tattooing
know.
me all this
health
time.
department
I thought that was
thinks there is.
normal.
Yeah.
Health department thinks there is because they're like, yeah, smooth wipeable ceiling. I'm like, my
What?
ceiling's 14 feet tall.
Ceiling?
I'm like this. I can't even get to my ceiling.
Wipeable
Anyway.
ceiling? Is that what you said?
Smooth wipeable ceiling.
A wipeable ceiling.
Have to
you
have a
can
In case
wipeable-
blood.
In
In
case,
case blood just
right.
I don't know how it
Yikes.
gets up there, but but no, like when you get tattooed, you I almost tell people, let's say you sweat blood. It's not like
Like it beads up.
yeah,
sort
it
of,
beads
sure.
up. It's not you're like pouring out blood, and then your plasma mixes with it anyway. Right.
We're gonna have
But
to mark this episode, by the way.
oh yeah, trigger warning, blood.
Talking about shooting blood on the ceiling and plasma.
But yeah, like the shoulder blade will bleed more, and you'll see more beating of that blood, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but it's not like gushing. It's just where joints meet. There's it does that.
Wow.
What is your thoughts
Mm.
on pain mitigation for tattoos?
I am.
Do you call them names behind their backs?
Oh no, I mean I've
I
used
didn't think
it.
you did.
I've used it.
This is part of this
Cowards.
this normalization of tattoos and this more welcoming sort of
yeah, like
environment, right?
Listen, like if
Yeah.
you need to use that, that's fine. I always give
Because
the
there's lotions and sprays now,
Yeah.
right? You can put on prior to getting.
yeah, and they
right.
don't always work. I always tell people it's like sometimes a 50-50 shot if it works.
Are shops offering those in the shop? Are you offering them in the shop? No. Okay. All right.
No, I leave
Yeah.
that.
I've been
Yeah.
offered
That's
that
not-
before when getting tattooed.
Well, I can use the
I heard it doesn't.
I can use the spray one while you're getting tattooed, but it only works on open skin.
Right.
Oh.
So you can't numb yourself prior.
Okay.
So like
yeah.
I have to like the open skin has to take the lidocaine.
But
Oh,
again-
sorry, that was my experience.
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was like partway through a tattoo, and they were like, "Are you
Oh, yeah,
okay?
back
Do you
team.
want?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're crying.
Yeah.
We
I
can
was just
see you're not
I
handling
was
this well.
shaking and weeping, and they were like,
I've
you like
used,
an epidural?
I've used it too. I'm sure Tom has used it as well.
What?
The
Oh yeah, I think.
yeah, I think maybe me that used it.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think are you saying you sprayed it on?
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
I know
think so.
you have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
But you can use what you're asking, the beforehand one.
Yeah, so that's what I was speaking to.
Okay,
In
gotcha.
case people are not aware, there are it's
Ways
lotions,
to numb yourself.
right?
Yeah, it's a
lotions.
topical lidocaine.
Yeah.
It's a cream.
That's lidocaine.
You can get it at CVS. It's like 5%, but it doesn't always work. That's why I always tell people. And it sometimes makes, God, I feel like you have to put trigger warnings on the show. It does make your skin spongy.
Ah.
Like sometimes it doesn't take ink as well because
Oh.
you've like, it makes your skin like more like,
Porous?
no, like just like, I don't know, like it feels spongy. Anyway, it sometimes
Like the
can affect-
texture of your skin
yes.
becomes more,
like more like, yeah.
and it's not good for the.
Sometimes the ink won't go in as well.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I've noticed that in some people.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
So like I always give people the warning of it may do this, it may not do that.
Okay.
But if you want to use it, once
Go
again,
for it,
I
yeah.
can't control your body. You do you. Like if you want to use that, I just gave you the warning.
That gives me the heebie-jeebies a little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No thanks.
All right, that's a good one. Obviously, doing drugs and alcohol
Oh, yeah,
before
yeah,
coming
yeah,
in
yeah,
is
no,
not the
no.
greatest things in the world for a number of different reasons, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you drink, your blood
Thins
thins.
out, right? Which is not
Yeah,
good.
and then you can't get ink in as well.
right.
So if you
Um,
had someone lie to you and you realize
Oh
halfway through,
yes.
they're
Oh
super
god.
drunk.
Oh yeah. No, I mean,
You refuse some people.
I mean, I've refused someone before, but it's a funny story. It's happened. I was in a convention in New Orleans, and this was with Corinne, who's an artist over at Arcadia,
Corinne.
and her and I were tattooing at this convention together. And this girl comes up and she's like, we both still remember it. It was like a line work golden snitch from Harry Potter. And we're like, okay, yeah, $100, quick little
Yeah,
tattoo,
easy, yep.
whatever. She seemed fine. We're sitting there, and her friend wanted it too. And Corinne's like, I'll do the friend. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll do her. And we start the tattoo, and I noticed my girl, like, slurring a little bit. And, like, at conventions, weird, they serve alcohol. There's bars. But you can get tattooed there. It's a whole, I don't know. Whatever. So
It's New Orleans.
so I'm like, one drink with a client, I'm like this, I'm not going to notice it. If you're drunk,
Yeah.
I'm going to notice it
Sure.
in a tattoo. So she's like sitting there, I'm tattooing her.
Wait,
she's
I'm
slurring
sorry.
and
You mean you would
wobbling.
notice when you're tattooing because of
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Not
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of them slurring, but
No,
because
I
you
would
can
notice.
tell.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
would
all
notice
right.
if you have more than
Gotcha.
one,
All right,
right?
all right, sorry.
One, I can also tell when someone's hungover because if you're hungover, you bleed more.
Yeah.
So like I'm like this.
Interesting.
How much did you drink last night? You know. But so I'm tattooing this girl. She's slurring. She's wobbling. Corinne has the other girl, and she was like, looks over at me, and the other girl's like passing out, and then we're like this, not like from pain. She's drunk.
drunk.
And we both were like, all right, well, we got to finish this and get them out of here. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't stop. I'm halfway through it. And it was like
Yeah,
this
that'd
tiny
be
tattoo.
weird,
and we
right?
both were like, And so the best part, though, is that they came back around wanting another tattoo. And we were like, nah.
Oh, you mean the
got it.
same day?
Yeah, like 5 minutes later.
Oh, fuck.
Like, I guess after another drink,
Had
they
one more
wanted
drink.
another tattoo.
Wow.
And both me and Corinne were like, okay. Ooh.
So you tattooed their foreheads and then moved
Yeah,
on.
I
It
tattooed
was
their
New
foreheads.
Orleans,
They
whatever.
got Mickey Mouses on their butt cheeks.
For the right
so,
price.
You know, whatever. But that was my one instance of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right? People
Yeah.
are weird.
People are weird.
Yeah, that's
People
wild.
are weird, right?
They worked on a cruise ship too. They were a wild. That's what I'm saying. How much I remember them. They were
The-
wild.
Oh yeah,
They left
they
an
stick
imprint.
out to you.
They stick out
Yeah.
my mind.
Sure.
Has anybody given you a design you're like, no, I'm not doing that?
Yeah. Mostly it's people who draw the design themselves.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
Like, I
that's-
mean, has there ever been content where it's been offensive or been just something that you're not comfortable doing? You don't have to name it if you don't want, but I'm saying, have there been instances where they brought you something you're just like, man,
I will say, I think anything. I've never had like any like racial slur or things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But the only thing that comes to mind is if anybody brings me something with Native American imagery,
Yeah.
and they're not.
right?
I am usually like, I'm not comfortable.
It's
doing
uncomfortable,
that.
yeah.
That's, I mean, and I can't tell them it's their body, right?
Right.
But I'm also like, why are
Do
we
you,
getting
do you do you cite that as the reason, or you say you make
I
up something
just-
else?
I usually,
For everybody future coming in there, you'll know that this is why she's refusing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not. It's not. And like I'll ask like one of the artists at the shop, her husband or ex-husband is half Latino and half Native American, and so it was at the shop, and I asked her what her and her ex-husband's opinion was from a person that was Native American, and they both were like, no, like that's not.
Whoa.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I needed to hear.
Right.
And I was like, because I'm not comfortable doing it, but I needed to make sure that I'm not, you
Yeah.
know.
Overreacting or
So
something.
overreact, right? And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
obviously, I didn't do that tattoo.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious about this.
Uh-oh.
I know you came prepped for most of the questions, but when
I'm
you said
making everything up on the top of my head. I swear to you.
well, when you said you were coming in, I think one of the things I was probably most curious about is like, obviously we're designers. You're a designer in a sense, right? Maybe you would say more artist than designer.
Yeah, I'd say art, yeah.
You'd say artist. For us, we get this kind of maybe luxury when a client is making a decision that isn't optimal for their goal. We get to kind of say, well, you've hired us to be the expert, and ultimately, this is what you're trying to achieve,
Yeah.
and here's how we can help get you there, because this is the best decision based on this set of analyses and this
Just
set
some
of data.
data-driven stuff, right,
Data-driven
yeah.
stuff. And so we kind of get to back up on that, and you, I imagine, being the expert, similarly, like
Yeah,
you're the
yeah.
expert,
Yeah.
you do know what's best, right?
Yeah.
You know what's going to work best in this area, and you know what's going to visually be the most appealing. Is that challenging?
How do I tell people no?
Yeah.
It is challenging when you first start in your career. I say in tattooing, you kind of have to have a backbone because you will get pushed around by clients and do things that you're uncomfortable with, like that tattoo I really didn't want to do, and then people bringing things to me that aren't going to look. I have to stand up for myself a lot as like the
Yeah.
expert and be like, and it's hard because it's so personal to them
That-
and it's
yeah.
on them forever.
Yeah.
So then you're like, I get why it's important to you, but this isn't going to look good. Like this isn't going to work with the anatomy of your body.
Yeah.
This, not everything's tattooable, right? Like you can't get a portrait of the Mona Lisa the size of a penny, right? Like there's size barriers.
There's some
right?
objectivity to this.
There's rules.
Skin
you know?
tone too has a lot to do with it, right?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes people cop out with skin tone. I think if you work really hard and educate yourself, I think a lot of things are possible.
You can overcome some
You
of
could,
it.
yeah. Like I think people with a darker skin tone being told they can't have color is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
I think that that artist probably didn't research enough or do something. Like I think a lot of artists would agree with me. There's a lot you can do
Okay.
in those regards. But yeah, it's hard telling
Yeah.
people no
Yeah.
on such a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's where you have to have a backbone. It's like I know what I'm talking about, and you kind of have to be like a silver tongue and like be charming enough to be like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anna's got a silver tongue.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Be like this. You have to charm them. Be like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I want to make sure that you have the best tattoo possible.
Yeah.
And this, I love, like, hey, I love this idea. What if we did this, and move this around, right? It's a very intimate relationship where you're like firm, but charming,
Sure.
right? Like it's this weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Very
what I was asking
motherly.
about. That makes
Yeah, right. I'm everybody's mom.
All right. I'm posing this to every designer that comes in here in some form or fashion. Does AI touch anything that you're going to be doing? Can you see AI touch? Is it doing
Oh,
it now,
yeah.
or
Oh, yeah.
yeah? Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
give me something brief in here.
I
yeah.
think AI is helpful. AI is difficult, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's up and down. I think the way it can affect tattooing is one, like I draw everything custom, right? Like I research, I do references, I draw it. AI is now making it a thing where I wouldn't have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like I could type into AI, give me a neo-traditional drawing of those flowers I talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it pops it out, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I'd still have to make line work for it or
Right.
whatever, but there's ways you could do that. I use Procreate for all my drawing. So it takes out the art for me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like, obviously I would be like, I didn't create that.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like almost like taking a tattoo off Pinterest and just copying it.
Right, yeah.
Which a big thing in tattooing is that you do not copy.
You don't do that.
You don't copy work.
It's like stealing jokes as a comedian.
Yeah, you don't
just
do that. It's a
yeah.
big no-no.
Right.
I do find it helpful on the other end of it if I get a really hard tattoo request that I don't know how the composition of this, like, how do I get this is so silly, how do I get a lizard riding a zebra?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how do I pull a reference for that? And so I could type that into AI and be like, oh, I never thought about putting the anatomy
In that way.
of just the bust of the horse or the
Right.
zebra with like this. You know what I'm saying?
It's
Like,
almost you storyboard or mood board with
Exactly.
AI, and then you kind of
and then
take
you
from there.
use that
Yeah.
as your like inspiration reference
That's cool.
and still draw it. I will say that is where it has become helpful in tattooing.
Makes a
That
lot
seems
of sense.
again, it's getting into the ethical side of using AI, not plagiarism, but using it for some
Inspiration
outlining. Yeah,
versus
I love that.
actually taking it. Like
That's
I
great.
would never take the art,
Yeah.
but I have used it one time for a composition and I was like, oh, that's smart. Why did I didn't think about doing that? And then
Nice.
drew my version.
It's funny how we keep hearing from like basically all of the guests that Tom asked this question to, it expedites the like iterative process,
Yeah.
essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't like taking that process away from myself because I
Yep.
think it helps me as an artist.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
But in those scenarios where I'm like, this is not a hype, like I don't know how
Yeah.
this would work. So
Right.
I was like, I used AI one time for that.
Also, I like that we put up our own guardrails. I feel like it's a slippery slope. You stop doing that part of the art. What else are you going to stop doing? You're phoning everything else in, and that seems, again, it starts really draining the art side of it and what we're generally passionate about. So,
Yeah. Like I had a client the other day, I loved this tattoo and I told her how much I enjoyed doing it. She wanted the goddess Iris, who is like rainbows, sun, sky, stuff like that. But she wanted the goddess in it and all those elements, right? And I was sitting with my apprentice, and he was like, "How do you put all those elements together?" And I could have went to AI and just been like, do.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, no, what you do is this. I'm like, okay, that's Greek. Let's do a Greek vase. Let's add iris to the vase. Out of the vase is these rainbows and, like, the clouds. Like, and it had she wanted wings, too. And so, like, the wings kind of were part of the pottery that wrapped around. I mean, no, I loved how it turned out. And I'm sure AI would have made it easier for me. But, like, I found so much joy
There you go.
in figuring out how to put that together.
I love that.
Do you have a photo of that piece?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Is it
put
right
up.
here?
Well, it's right. Cool. We'll put it up on screen.
All right. So if anybody out there looking to book, to come over, to check out your studio, how do they do that?
Go to Gilded Moth Tattoo on Instagram, or go to Lincoln Mill. I always tell people, we're not where Turbo is, not in the front building.
Right.
We're in the back tall building.
Right.
North lobby, come in.
I know.
First floor.
It's
All the time.
first floor. It's a journey to, like, find us.
Yeah.
But I made a very nice video on our Instagram
Okay.
where I talk and walk you through how to get there.
Oh, what a good idea.
Check that
I
video
know.
I'm
out.
going to steal
It's
it from you.
Yeah, it's in
the
the
silver tongue Anna walking
yeah.
you through there.
I mean, no, my one girlfriend was like, I think I could use you for navigation. Your voice is, like, charming me.
Ooh.
But it's on my story highlight how to get there.
Anna, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
you
you.
are a
This
was a
wonderful
blast.
person,
You guys are great.
and you're a talented designer, and I love coming over to shop and getting tattooed.
Thanks.
So thanks for
appreciate
coming
it.
on.